Hello, so for this video we are going to go over the structures of covalent bonds, and all we need is a periodic table and our assignment. So in this case we're going to start off with hydrogen fluoride. So let's start off by drawing the Lewis diagrams for each individual element, and then we'll combine the Lewis diagrams to create the molecule. So in this case we get the Lewis diagram for hydrogen by looking at where it's located on the periodic table. And if you notice this little tiny one on ptable.com's periodic table, this is a valence electron, and every single element here in the first column has one valence electron. Alright, so once again I'm at a little tiny number. So here's hydrogen, and then fluorine on the other hand is all the way on the far right, and it is located on column 17 or 7A. So it has 7 valence electrons. You can see that by focusing in on that little 7 right there. And all of these elements here in this column have a valence shell with 7 electrons, or they have 7 valence electrons. Alright, so here's fluorine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can draw them darkened or shaded, it's up to you. But all we care about is that we link up all these single electrons. So notice we have 1, 2, 3 lone pairs, and you can think about these as like a very committed couple, and these electrons won't split up for whatever reason. So these singles are going to link up and actually form a bond. So notice here it is, and let's now make this look nicer for our complete answer. So we're going to just draw our bond. Remember that every bond is a shared pair of electrons. So pair of electrons that each element will now have. Alright, so now hydrogen will now have 2 electrons because of this bond, and fluorine will now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it has completed its valence shell. So it has hydrogen by forming a duet. So fluorine formed an octet, while hydrogen formed a duet, where it only needs 2 electrons, and this one only needs 8 electrons. So that's pretty much how we solve this. So let's try out another one. So in this case we have beryllium dichloride. So in this situation we find that beryllium is on the second column of the periodic table. So I'm going to draw out beryllium. So we do Be, and we give it 2 valence electrons. Now we go to chlorine. What do you know? It's in the halogens, and it is located right underneath fluorine. So it has 7 valence electrons. So I'm going to draw out Cl. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, what do you know? I have 2 chlorines. Let's go ahead and draw out the second chlorine. Notice this 2 right here. That means that I have 2 chlorines. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, so now I'm going to circle my lone pairs. These are the committed couples. Won't split up. Alright, so now our single electrons will bond. So here's this. So now I'm dragging this line over here, and I connect this other single, these 2 single electrons here. So now let's clean this up. So here's beryllium forming its bond with 1 chlorine. And for future reference, try to space these elements as far as possible away from each other, specifically the ones that are linked to the center. So it'll make sense later. So I'm going to draw out another chlorine here with the 3 lone pairs. So notice 1, 2, 3 lone pairs, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This is pretty much our cleaned up drawing, and that's good. Alright, so I recommend pause the video here. That way you don't get to see the rest of the answers, but if you do get confused, I'm going to go ahead and solve out CH4 and another complicated one from back here. Alright, so anyways, go ahead and pause the video, try this out, and go ahead and talk to your teacher and show them your responses and see what you think, or see what they think. Alright, so here it goes. Here's carbon. So carbon is located on group 14 or 4A. Remember, we don't really care about all of these elements here for general chemistry. So for our high school course, all we care about are elements 1 through 20, and every now and then we'll reference these, but for now This is group 14 or 4A. So we have 4 valence electrons if you look that close. Alright, so let's go ahead and try it out. So we have carbon with 1, 2, 3, 4 dots. Then we have hydrogen with 1 dot, but notice we all have 4 hydrogens because of this number right here, this little subscript. And here's the 4th one. Notice I'm placing the dots wherever, and that's okay. Alright, so let's try it out. So we have a single bond, a single bond, a single bond, and a single bond. So now we clean this up. We have a bond to hydrogen, another hydrogen, a hydrogen, and a hydrogen. And that's pretty much our cleaned up drawing. Okay, now let's flip the paper over. And let's try out this item right here. Alright, so C2H4. So carbon, once again, has 4 valence electrons, but we have 2 carbons. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have hydrogen, 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 and then hydrogen. Okay, this might look ugly, we'll clean it up later. So notice we have a bond to hydrogen, another one, and then keep in mind, with carbon having quite a bit of single electrons, these are probably going to link up together. So we'll worry about that later. Let's just link up all these hydrogens. And by the way, I highly recommend you just split up the hydrogens evenly for all 4 of these between the carbons that we are using. Alright, or link up the carbons first. You'll figure it out. It's kind of like a puzzle. But the key thing is that we cannot have any single electrons. Okay, so notice we have single electrons here. We can't bond our single electrons to the same element. We have to bond them to the single electrons of other elements. So here it goes. We have another single one here. Alright, so now let's clean it up. So notice we have 2 bonds forming between these 2 carbons, so we're going to centralize that. And then we have 2 single bonds, or 2 hydrogens connected to carbon with single bonds. So here it is. Whoops, little mistake. Let's fix that. That's an H. Okay, and here's another H, and here's another H. Once again, this is an H, little sloppy H. Alright, go ahead and try out the rest. Have your teacher check your answers, and you should be good to go.